So now we want to implement JSON Web Tokens, and we're going to be using the JSON Web Token NPM package. So we're going to need to install it, and then to generate a token, we need to call the sign method, so JWT sign, and we pass in here the data that we want to pass along in the token, which in our case is just going to be the user ID. That way, when someone uses a token, we know what the user ID is. We can then go ahead and grab that user from the database, and we can validate the user and so on. So we pass in whatever the payload is, and then just some kind of secret, which we're going to keep in our .env file. And then when we decode that token, there's a method called decode, but we'll get into that later. So let's go back to our user controller here, and we want to put the token here. Now I could bring JSON Web Token into this file and call .sign in here, but I'm going to create a separate file for that. So in the back end here, I'm going to create a folder called utils. And then in utils, I'm going to create a file called generate_token.js. And this isn't going to be long at all. It's just a couple lines. We want to generate a token. So we need to import JSON Web Token, which I haven't installed. So I'm going to stop my server, and in the root here, npm install JSON Web Token. Okay, I'll just run the server again, and let's go ahead and import JWT from JSON Web Token. And then I'm going to create a function here called generate token, and this is going to take in an ID, a user ID, because that's what we want to add as the payload in this token. So from here, we're going to return JWT.sign, just like I showed you in the docs, and the payload is going to be an object with the ID, and then the second argument is the secret. Now I'm going to put that in my .env, so I'll say process.env.jwt_token. Now let's go ahead and add that before I forget. So in .env, let's add JWT underscore secret, not token. And we can set this to whatever you want. I'm just going to do ABC123 and change this to secret. And then we can pass in a third argument of options, and all I'm going to put in here is expires in. And you can set the token to expire. You can set it to expire 30 minutes or whatever. I'm going to say 30 days, so we can use this 30D syntax, and that's it. That will generate our token. So let's export. We'll go ahead and export default generate token. And let's just restart the server because we did add an environment variable. And then in our user controller, I'm going to bring in up here, say import generate token from /utils/generate token.js. Make sure you add that. And then where we have this token, I'm going to go ahead and call generate token, and remember that gets passed in the user ID, so we want to pass in here user._ID. So after we validate, we check for the user with that email. If it exists, it's going to be put in that variable, and we want to match the password, and if that matches, we'll go ahead and return this data back along with a token that has that user's ID embedded in it, okay, as the payload. So let's go ahead and save that, and now let's go back to Postman, and we'll go ahead and log in with John's account, and now you can see that we get this token. In fact, I can now take this token, and we can go to jwt.io, and I should be able to just put this right in here, and you can see exactly what it gives us. You can see the header, the signature, and then the payload has the user's ID. It also has this issued at, so it's just a timestamp where this was issued at, and then the expiration. So that's also going to be included in the data. All right, and now once we set up our auth middleware, we'll be able to use this token to validate and access protected routes.